It's episode 34 of Beyond the Blast Doors, a Star Wars show. Thank you so much for joining us. Apparently, these two guys are a bunch of comedians. I'm David Amlotti, one of your hosts, David Gilbert, Jesse Buck, and we're having a good time. A lot to get to on this episode. You might have heard about it, but there's a new Solo trailer. We have a lot going on in the comic world. We have Darth Vader 14, right?
It's been a busy week.
Busy week. We have
Yeah,
that.
it's
We
been
have
a busy week, yeah.
Dr. Aphra. We're only... I want to talk about that comic just because of the cover. And a few more things. We're also doing our very first weekly giveaway this week because our official sponsors, the Fantasy Shop of Maplewood, Missouri, has given us a comic book to raffle off. So we're going to do that giveaway in pages, pixels, and pieces. So be sure you stick with us. When we get to that segment, we'll give you the hashtag that you'll want to comment down below on this video with. So you drop that comment with the hashtag, you're sub to our channel, you are able to enter it for that contest. So without further ado, actually, before we get into the Solo trailer, I do want to bring this up because I think it's funny. There's a story that went around the internet this last week because Mark Hamill did another interview. Mm-hmm. And so what's fun now is Mark clearly does not care about what he says or what Disney would do because he has said... A long list of things, he has said, I don't care if they really bring me back. I was hoping to have a story in this trilogy, but in the original trilogy, that was my story. I had a beginning, middle, and end, and this one I had a beginning and an end. And then he came out, and he goes, well, the thing that's frustrating me, they let me drink green milk on screen, but they don't let me show any emotion. So he's talking about how they deleted scene about him grieving Han, the passing of Han, and he's a little agitated they didn't show that. What do you guys make of these comments? Is this just Mark Hamill doesn't care anymore, and maybe does this impact whether he comes back or not as a Force Ghost in 9?
The thing is Mark is kind of known for being a little bit of a troll, an internet troll. And by troll I mean like somebody who like they like to razz somebody and make some funny comments, sometimes very sarcastic with like an element of truth in there.
Okay.
So
he just seems very agitated. I think he's at the point now where he's done answering the questions, and now he's just laying it out there.
He's got a star on the Walk of Fame now. What else does he have to wait for? He's a Disney hero. He's got the star. Oh, yeah.
I think he's waiting for that Trickster movie. It's only a matter of time before he gets to reprise the role as a trickster on the big screen. You would see that?
I would see it. Yeah, why not?
God, Jesse, you would do anything with Mark Hamill. It's fine, though, because he's our hero.
Yep.
Let's go ahead and jump in on... I just thought that was interesting. They let me suck green milk on screen, but they wouldn't let me show any character development. That's great. All right, Real Talk. Real Talk is the segment where we talk about everything that's movie, TV related. Basically, if you can see it on a screen... Thank you for coughing away from the mic.
Yep.
If you can see it on a screen, we're going to talk about it in this segment. And we had to start off with that Solo trailer that dropped a couple of days ago. It's kind of surprised. If you go on YouTube right now, it's under 10 million views.
Really?
Compare
Wow.
that to the hundreds and hundreds of millions, which is no over-exaggeration, that The Last Jedi, Rogue One, Force Awakens, those trailers, significantly more viewership. But nonetheless, and we can dive in that in a little bit, but the trailer itself, I think, is solid. I think for anyone who was aware of this movie and unsure if they would be into this movie, they watch this 2-minute, almost 2.5-minute trailer. I think they're on board. David, let's start with you. You see this trailer. Do you watch it once? Do you watch it multiple times? How do you feel about it?
I've probably watched it 12.5 times already. This is the first thing that's come out for this movie officially, outside of Ron Howard's tweets, that actually get me excited for the Solo film.
Yeah.
The teaser trailer I thought was rubbish. The other little teaser we had I thought was just terrible. This is finally something that's starting to get me excited for Solo.
I think what's great about this 2.5-minute trailer that we got is the fact that you're finally able to see a little bit more of Alden Ehrenreich as Han Solo, and you're getting a better idea of where we're going in this adventure. Just from the very beginning, that montage we get, this is clearly a Western set in the Star Wars galaxy, which is very in line of what George Lucas kind of envisioned for this space opera in the very beginning. Han Solo's kind of the cowboy. You can tell by the dun-dun, dun-dun in the trailer that it kind of has that Western vibe.
The music was better to me. Better than that Blade Runner-esque that we got a couple months ago.
Which is still present there at the very end when they do the slate.
We're not talking about that.
Okay.
Yeah, nope.
Okay, that's fine. That's fine. But Jesse, you've watched this trailer too a few times. And what were your thoughts of more of the Alden Ehrenreich performance as Han Solo that you saw in this?
I definitely have to agree with David that we had more of a old Western kind of feel. The little like cantina scene with the gambling and everything. There was a few Easter eggs in there. I believe I saw some Mandalorian currency.
You did.
I would.
All right, mark it. 2 minutes into the show.
Yeah, 2 minutes in. At the same time, though, we got a lot of like Chewie action too out of this, which was kind of nice. And potentially, I've been trying to catch it, but I've been trying to do this late at night.
Mm-hmm.
I think we get another Wookiee, possibly. So
at least one more.
Yeah, I'm kind of excited about that.
Well, my money on that would be Mala, Chewie's wife.
Yeah.
And we already know that Lumpy from the holiday special is actually canon because Lumpy was was mentioned in the Aftermath novels that Chuck Wendig did.
Yeah.
So, there are aspects of the holiday special that make sense to be canon. We just don't want that holiday special to be canon.
Lumpy?
Lumpy. Yeah.
Isn't
L-U-M-P-Y.
Lumpy-a-Roo?
Something
Lumpy-a-Roo.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah, Lumpy is
Lumpy.
Chewbacca's son with Mala.
Ugh.
Malla, I believe. But I think that's who it is because it kind of seems like a very somber scene. And, of course, we only get like 2 seconds of this shot, but it's like Chewie bumping foreheads with her, and I think that's going to be his wife. It'll be curious to see if they do decide to keep his wife named Mala to be kind of in line with the legend stuff. But I think that's what we're going to see here. I think Chewie, I should say, is going to be a standout character in this movie based on what we saw with that trailer. I think you're going to get, how does Han and Chewie meet? How does that life deck get established? Do they meet on Kessel or do they meet on Kashyyyk? Some people are speculating that Kashyyyk is actually that location that you see Chewbacca and Mala. I'm not quite sure. It would make sense that maybe it's an imprisonment camp on Kashyyyk. I know for the last several months we've been assuming that it was just, he's in the spice mines of Kessel as a slave and Han saves him. What are the aesthetics maybe in this trailer that we really latch onto? Because for me, I think it's the second or third shot where it's a tilt up, and Rogue One did the same thing. It's a tilt up, and you see up in the sky a Star Destroyer under construction. And I love that human perspective on the streets of a planet looking up and just seeing that Imperial presence.
Yep.
Was there anything visually, Jesse, let's start with you, that really caught your eye other than that Mandalorian currency?
Again, just that entire scene. You had it was just a room filled with smugglers, bounty hunters. It really gave me that nice.
You have Therm Scissor Punch, who is a real character.
So that scene just kind
Awful
of stuck
name.
with me because that was something that drew me into Star Wars just to begin with, was just that old gritty feel. You pointed out the Star Destroyer, that too. I like seeing that Imperial presence. It kind of makes things a little more gloomy feeling because that the Empire basically just sucks.
Right.
So
Well, I like the Empire.
we like them visually and aesthetically, but just in an overall plot story.
Well, they did nothing wrong, Jesse. What are you implying?
When I look back through this trailer, and I'm kind of cheating now because I'm having it on my screen in a loop right now. I do like the Sabacc scene. I think that's going to be interesting because I want to see that played out on the screen. I think that's a cool element. I also want to know more about Thandie Newton's character because we know very little about her right now. I kind of want to assume that she would be... I always thought that she would be Sana Soros or Sana Solo, a character that we met in the comics. She appeared a few times in the main Star Wars line. She has a past with Han. She's also going to be in the Last Shot novel, which is out on shelves right now, or just about to drop on shelves, I should say. But it's a story that is Han and Kira and apparently Sana in their even younger years, younger than the Solo movie. So be on the lookout for that novel to give you some background. Anything that we see in this trailer that we didn't like? Because aesthetically, it sounds like we like. Were there any I didn't ask you, David. Was there anything aesthetically that caught your eye in this?
Nothing really aesthetically I want to talk about, but there's one scene.
Yes.
I got it pulled up too, and it's about 1 minute and 55 seconds in.
Okay, I'm going to go to it.
But it's like Chewie picks up a guy and drops him on his head. So, we're not strangers to violence in the Star Wars universe, but this is just more than just slicing off an arm in a cantina. This is more than mowing down hundreds upon hundreds of droids. That's pretty violent.
This is not Chewie from Chewie and the Pork children's book.
Well, maybe this is why you always let the Wookiee win.
You just see this, the guy's spine just pop through the top of this guy's skull, because that'd be awesome.
But this is going to be really cool if we're getting definitely a lot more of an aggressive beat 'em up type movie.
Yeah.
Well, we see Paul Bettany's character for the first time, and I really did think that he was the guy under that mask, that Voss character.
Mm-hmm.
I thought he was the one that was with the helmet and he had the feathers and he had all the goons on the desert. That's not Paul Bettany. He just has a lot of he looks like he has like slices over his face. So not much action of him, just a close up to give you a visual of what he looks like. But I'm curious to see how big of a threat he is. If he's going to be not a throwaway villain, but if there's someone lurking in the shadows, a greater threat that we're just not going to be aware of until we get into this movie.
Boba Fett.
Huh?
Nothing.
I don't think Boba Fett's going to be the true enemy. I think if Boba's in this movie, I think he needs to be having more of a buddy-buddy relationship with Han, because things don't really go south until Empire: Return of the Jedi. They're supposed to be part of this rogues gallery under Jabba's hand.
I was saying that on a joking. I mean, I would like to actually see him in more of like a cameo sense.
Okay.
Maybe nothing like
I
a
agree with
major.
that.
Like I wouldn't really want him involvement.
Over and under, will we see Jabba the
Yeah.
Hutt? Over under, will we see Jabba?
I think that would be a really nice like closeout. Like maybe like Han's beginning. Like just beginning his job with like his work with Jabba. Maybe not so much what's referenced in A New Hope and Empire.
80% over under.
80.
You got to go over or under. That's how that game works. David, what do you think?
I don't want to see Jabba, but I could see at the end of the movie somebody saying to him, "Hey, there's a job that Jabba the Hutt needs a smuggler for. Are you interested?" And then Alden giving us a goofy little grin, and that being the closeout to the movie.
All right, over under.
For what?
Over under 80%. You get Jabba.
Under.
I'm going over.
We'll go under.
Okay. So that's our take. I think there's just a couple of those OT characters you got to see. I think Jabba's been shoehorned in the trilogy previous times, or in the saga previous times. I think it would make most sense for him to be here. What if he's the one that's got the gig that Beckett is talking to Han about in the trailer? I think that would be really interesting. But what I think overall, I think you can watch this trailer and have a lot of excitement for this movie because it shows you, and like the little nuggets, like we see how Han now gets his blaster. Like we know the origins of him getting it. It's a kind of a gift from Beckett. I'm not spoiling anything because we've all hopefully watched the trailer at this point. What?
It's a gun.
But it's an iconic
It's not a
weapon.
gun.
of the
It's
Star
a
Wars
blaster.
saga. That's an iconic moment. There's promotional material recently that shows Kira with the dice. These dice that have become such a thing now in Star Wars storytelling because they were in like a 3-second shot in A New Hope, and then we see them again here in The Last Jedi.
Did we see them in A New Hope?
Yeah, Chewie bumps his head on him as he gets in the cockpit the first time.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can look that up. That's fine.
It's when they're revving up the Falcon, getting ready to go.
I just want to see how this train works. This like upper lower train that seems to be able to rotate on these tracks. Like a train seems. We've seen trains before in Star Wars, but to me, when you have speeders, it just kind of all seems impractical. But it would be interesting to see how that thing works. I think that skirmish is going to be interesting. That ending of the trailer especially is cool when Chewie's like hanging out and Han has to pull him in.
Yeah.
That reminds me of the humor in this trailer really quick. Humor, I thought, hit on all cylinders. I enjoyed at the end of the teaser trailer the little bit there with Han saying everything's fine or whatever. They're trying to dodge all the space octopuses or whatever. But there's this one moment in this trailer where Chewie says something and Han's like, what do you know?
And then like 2 scenes later, he's like, "You're 190 years old. Since when do you know how to fly?"
Wow, do you look good for your age? So like that stuff hit on me, and I really hope that people are looking at this as okay, like that this is going to be a Han Solo. This is a Solo that is 10 years younger than when we first meet him in A New Hope, and just take it for what it is. You do not want a Han Solo impressionist trying to be Han. You don't want a Harrison Ford impressionist trying to be Solo. Just have that spirit of the character. And the more I watch this trailer, the more I really see it. Like I like the idea of a unsure Solo who gains his confidence by doing all these crazy side missions.
I'm gonna see this movie with the intent of knowing that there are gonna be things that I'm not going to like, because that's like that with any movie really. It's what can I take? What are the positive things can I take? Is the movie overall positive? Does does it move the lore forward in a great way. And so far, the little tidbits that we've seen, I'm actually pretty confident in it now. I mean, you know how unconfident I was in this film last summer.
You would just always.
I was sick of talking about this movie, you know. And yeah, I mean, especially this last trailer, I'm definitely pumped for May 25th.
I think if you like the Rogue One movie especially, you will like this movie because it looks like Ron Howard came in here, did at least 85% of the reshoots, basically did a whole new movie, and there is a realistic, gritty feel to this. And again, it's a vibe that I think that they got so well accomplished with Rogue One, and it looks like here again with Solo, they got that. Force Awakens, I think, felt kind of like that lived-in world.
Yeah.
I think when you got to Canto Bight in The Last Jedi and you're like, why am I watching a Harry Potter movie? I think that's when that illusion kind of went away. But I love the humor. I love the edits of this trailer. I'm really excited to see what cast and crew have pulled off with this adventure. Tell us what you think of this trailer down below. It sounds like we're all in agreement. We love this movie. We're going to go see it on May 25th together, and we're going to have one hell of an adventure, and we want to have that adventure with you. Comment down below, what did you like the most from this trailer? Let us know. We're going to have you commenting a lot during this episode. We want to make sure that we're continuing that Star Wars conversation. Next topic here in Real Talk, and we are cruising along here. This is, of all the posts we've ever made on social media, this got the most reaction on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. There is a rumor, or maybe it's just a plea from some fans. What will happen with Princess Leia in Episode 9? A recent story came out, and everyone was posting about this. The idea of Meryl Streep to play Princess Leia in Episode 9. Very early on in the process, after it was unfortunately confirmed that Carrie Fisher passed, Disney came out and said we would not CGI Leia in that role. She'd either be gone from it or they would have someone maybe step in and portray that character.
They blew all the CGI budget for Leia floating her back into the spaceship. That's why.
You know, Leia Poppins will be a moment, I think, that lives in infamy for a long time for a lot of Star Wars fans. But this really got people fired up. Before we kind of... It is what it is. I mean, it's the idea that fans are, you know, calling for someone to reprise a role. A lot of people think that CGI is disrespectful. I don't think so. I think, you know, Mark Hamill, for example, just did an interview recently with Collider.com, and he said that Carrie and Leia are so intertwined, it would be shocking. It would maybe take you out of the moment if you saw another person in that role as Leia. That is how I agree. I would rather there be a CGI Leia at the very beginning. If they're going to have Leia in there, CGI and give her an early exit. But I just, if it was anyone but Carrie Fisher, that likeness of Carrie Fisher, I'd be taken out. We're going to go to the comments on the Facebook here in a second, but first I want to get Jesse's, your reaction first.
On the topic, I think it would be morally wrong to recast this character because, I mean, it's not, as a longtime fan, Carrie Fisher is Princess Leia. She is the only Princess Leia I will recognize. And it's nothing against Meryl Streep because I've seen Meryl Streep, you know, in other films.
I have a very big crush on Meryl Streep.
She is a fantastic actress, and this isn't me saying she couldn't do it. I'm just saying that she shouldn't do it on moral grounds simply because I think it would dishonor the memory of Carrie and everything that she stood for as an individual and as an actress and everything she portrayed as this character. So I would rather see CGI if they had to have her in there. Honestly, I would rather them just put her on another planet doing something else. And she's just really not in the film anymore. They need to redirect the story.
I think why Meryl Streep comes up is because she played Carrie Fisher in a biopic movie.
Postcard from the Edge.
Yeah, years ago. And so, I mean, I will not deny that if you put a Meryl Streep of present compared to a photo of older Carrie Fisher, there is a similar likeness.
Yes.
I just want Carrie. And I think what's interesting is... I think Baby Bit's a website that I have in the show notes, but there are a lot of different sites that told this story. You know, it's a weird time as a Star Wars fan right now because you feel like you have to defend yourself at times for liking or disliking something. And so it's like, you know, I don't agree with what they did with Luke, but I couldn't care less about what they did with Snoke. You know, and so like you already have like mixed feelings on like critical characters of this new trilogy. You gotta hit home with Leia, right? Because like Han had to die in 7 That's what Harrison Ford wanted. And I think the death for Han was convincing. A lot of people wanted to see Luke hang around till 9, Carrie hang around to 9. Some maybe don't agree with. David, you see the headline, Carrie Fisher to get recasted by Meryl Streep. What do you think about it?
I mean, by and large, for the last year that we've been doing this podcast, I have not been a proponent of recasting any of the main characters. But Disney's already screwed that up for me with Solo, with Alden playing Han Solo. So we've already got this set up now where we're getting other people to play these iconic roles. So it just makes sense that Disney would want to recast this as well. And if they're if they're going to recast it, Meryl Streep would be the person I would want to do it. I don't like it. I don't want to see it happen. But if they're going to do it, I'd rather give it to somebody as distinguished and recognized and has a reputation than to give it to somebody walking off the street who thinks they can come in and fill Carrie's shoes.
Okay, I think that's a very
and
valid
we
point.
know that Meryl Streep was friends with Carrie Fisher because of that movie that they did together, and she played the role that was based off of Carrie's life, so they've got that connection right there. So at the end of the day, I don't want it. If Meryl Streep gets the role, if they do that, I'll say, okay, and I'll support it.
Because she'll do it right. I mean, it's not an argument against Meryl or questioning her ability to be an actress. I think it's all about the fandom and the passion for Leia. I really do think that there would be an opportunity down the road to recast Leia younger before A New Hope. You think about the Benioff and Weiss movies. We don't know what that's going to be about. You think about the Jon Favreau TV show for the streaming service in 2019. We don't know what that is going to be either. I could see a younger, Princess of Alderaan recast, with a different casting, and that would make absolute sense. But I think this one is just people want to hold on tight. But I get the fans who are petitioning for this too because they want to see Leia thrive in 9, however that's supposed to be. But I really think that what will ultimately happen is I think they're going to go like 5-6 years into the future with 9. Rey maybe will already have a Padawan or 2. We'll see what happens there. But I think Leia will have passed. I just really think that if whatever decision they make here, I think they have to go the safest path because they are seeing how some decisions with 8 maybe backfired a little bit. But maybe I'm wrong, and you should tell us down in the comments below because we're not all knowing, we're not all powerful. We're trying to bring order to this new empire, but sometimes it doesn't work. We just want peace. Like all we want is peace.
All they need to do, David, is break out the emergency Filoni.
Emergency Filoni.
Dave Filoni, the rescue. David, can you go ahead? My monitor clicked off here. So can you let us know what the third topic is right now in Real Talk?
Third topic. We are now talking about Solo director drama. We've recently had one of the actors on set, not one of the principal cast, but somebody who's been part of it from the beginning in a minor role. And he's given us a whole lot of information in an interview with Vulture. And we stole this from our buddies over at Star Wars Newsnet.
Thank you, StarWarsNewsNet.com. You guys are the best.
And so it's a really fascinating article. They go through and they talk about what it was like switching from Lord Miller to Ron Howard. We go through some of that. We go through why they chose Ron Howard to do it, how much in over their head they felt Lord Miller were. Talked a little bit about how the script remained the same, less improvisation, how the bulk of the story didn't change at all, just how they shot it.
And that was the big thing with bringing on Ron Howard because we heard time and time again this was Lawrence Kasdan's greatest script. Best Star Wars script to date. And take it or leave it for what that is, but he's the guy that gave you Empire and Return of the Jedi and helped with Force Awakens. He also had help of his son. And so the whole conflict was that Lord Miller weren't staying true to that script. So I don't think that was so much new. I did think it was interesting, though, to really get insight on the uncertainty that Lord and Miller had on set. That was really surprising to me. They seem to have this inability, according to this report. For what it's worth, like this could be as much as a rumor of anything, but they're saying how they took a lot of time to make decisions. They weren't fast moving. It created uncertainty on set. And then you have...
They would shoot scenes 24, 25, 26 times. The actors were getting upset because they didn't know what they were looking for. They even, this guy who gave the interview even said that they brought in the first assistant director he had to step in, overstepping his bounds at times, to help direct the scenes because Lord and Miller weren't organized and they didn't have their stuff together.
It just blows my mind. I think later on in that article they talk about when they do bring on Ron Howard, it was like this like fatherly vibe, whereas like everything's going to be okay. We're going to start over.
It was a sense of calm, a sense of stability.
Jesse, was there anything from this article that stood out to you? Because, I mean, this could be a lead character. This could be someone in the background just leaking this information. What do you take from it?
Well, I mean, if it's true, no wonder they were replaced. I mean, would you want to work underneath that? I mean, like indecisive or having to repeat the same scenes over and over again without direction?
I just feel like with like 21 Jump Street and a few other movies that are on the resume of Lord and Miller, I'm surprised that a Star Wars movie like this is like that big of a jump. Because when you look aesthetically at this movie, and again, we're looking at a Ron Howard Star Wars movie now, I really do think that I think Lord and Miller are getting executive producer credits or something, but they're not getting directing credits on this movie. It's a Ron Howard movie. There's a lot of medium and tight shots. If you're watching how this thing is constructed, there are some wides, but it's predominantly medium and wides. And they were talking about in this article how they built large sets, but when Ron came on scene, he was a lot more close-ups, using a lot less of those sets.
And that's why they had to redo most of the reshoots, not to change the story or the script, but to just film it from a different perspective.
It's a big-budget movie, but it seems like it's still a smaller scale. I don't feel like it should have been out of their wheelhouse. But clearly, like you were saying, clearly it was, and it was having an impact on the actors. I mean, I think about Woody Harrelson, the first time he made his appearance on The Tonight Show after filming Wrapped, he did not have much interest at all about discussing that movie, and I think it's because of all the frustration, the confusion there on set. I mean,
well, potentially considering that it's a standalone film, he wouldn't be able to just talk about it, all that much.
Yeah, but you can, usually when you see these movies, oh man, it was such a great time working with, the director. He really had a great vision, and the cast came together at the right time and told a really great story. And it was like, oh, you're gonna have a movie in May. It's gonna be in May.
Yeah, but it's Woody too. He's kind of an odd guy anyway.
Dude, White Men Can't Jump. That was a great movie, and he was that really crappy character in The Hunger Games.
Oh, Woody?
Yeah, Woody. Just
I love him. He's a great actor, but he's a little out there.
Cheers, Zombieland. He's just great.
Zombieland's my favorite movie. Cheers, obviously the favorite TV thing he's done. Yeah, that works. All right. Well, anything else that we think we need to touch upon with this article before we peel out?
One last thing that jumped out at me.
Yeah.
He talked specifically in his interview with Vulture about the acting coach they brought in for Alden.
Glad you brought this up.
And I'm really, really happy to hear what he says in this, because there's been rumors that it's actually been Harrison Ford. Maybe he was on set. Maybe it was just lunch. But he talks in this about how Disney wanted Harrison Ford. They didn't want Alden. They wanted somebody to act like Harrison Ford. And this guy says that the coach definitely helped him in that role. So it's good to see that Disney's taking time, that Kathleen Kennedy's taking time to invest in their talent in order to give us the story that they want to tell.
Yes,
and I like to hear that.
But I don't like to hear the fact that they're wanting him to be more like Harrison Ford. I mean, maybe capture some of the mannerisms of the character. We see in the trailer how he has his hands on his hips. It's kind of like an iconic Han Solo look. But I don't need this guy doing an impression of Harrison Ford. That doesn't work. Like Harrison Ford is Harrison Ford. If you want that impressionist, get MacGruber or whatever his name is that played a younger Harrison Ford in that one movie. That doesn't make sense to me. That's frustrating to me. I know that Harrison Ford was on set at one time. I know that he did have conversation. I mean, we've covered that story before of how he had some conversation with Alden. But I don't want this kid pressured to be Harrison Jr. That's not the role.
I think on some level, yeah. I feel like the purpose was to make sure that some of the body language was there. I'm with you. I don't want to see a 100%, like a mimic kind of thing, but I want to see some of those traits. You mentioned the hands on the hip. Like, it's good that little things like that are in there, or just capturing that kind of that cockiness, that assured self that Han kind of brought to the franchise and everything. And that's what I want to see. If that's accomplished while not trying to force a mini Harrison Ford kind of thing, I think we'll be fine.
The article says that Trying to mimic Harrison Ford is really tough. Lucasfilm wanted something very specific, copying someone else. Goes on to say that Alden's not a bad actor, just not good enough, and you could see his acting become more relaxed. He became more Harrison-like. The coach helped.
All right, so the last topic of Real Talk is Ron Howard blows up his social media again, talking about how the scoring for Solo is wrapped up, and also doing the visual effects stuff, getting that finished up with the good folks over there at Skywalker Ranch, and of course ILM Visual Effects. Seems like it's on time. I mean, I think it's not a situation with The Last Jedi where the movie was in the can for a couple of months. It's a situation where new director comes in, has to reshoot the whole movie, and now it's going to be hopefully wrapped up, I would think, within the next 10 days or so. The movie dropping on May 25th.
Yeah, they don't have much time to get it done.
Anything that really sticks out when you consider how this is wrapping up? You know, he's giving several tweets from, watching the visual graphics get wrapped up. You see a picture of a TIE fighter on screen getting blown to smithereens. Him and Powell and John Williams in a sound mixing booth at one time where they're matching video with the score. Anything stick out, David?
Just the fun manner. Ron Howard has a little video clip where he's showing the orchestra at Abbey Road Studios, and they're warming up. And Jesse, were you ever part of a band?
Yeah, I've played a little bit of music.
You get into band practice and you start, warming up your trumpet or whatever you have to do for your instrument, and it just doesn't sound good because everybody's doing something different. And then you see this little video, and then Ron Howard peeks his head and says, rough day at the office. It's just, he's in a good mood, and I like to see that. He's not stressed. He's not over the top upset. He's in a good place with this movie, and that gives me confidence that we're not getting a piece of trash.
I just like I like that confidence, and because in the one tweet, Jesse, he's talking about how he's so excited to show this movie to fans. Like that should be exciting because he's that confident in it. We know that this movie is now going to debut at the Cannes Festival. I believe that's in Paris, and it's going to debut like the 15th of May. So they're feeling that confident about it, where that movie's going to get presented. And then we're going to start seeing reviews. Is this one more thing in your back pocket that gives you motivation to go out and see this movie?
Oh, definitely. I mean, when the director is feeling... yes, I should actually backtrack. Because Rian Johnson was competent in The Last Jedi, and obviously...
Didn't hit home everything.
It didn't hit home. It was not a home run, clearly. There were things that I loved about his movie. And I am happy that Ron is confident, especially considering the circumstances that he came aboard for this film, the time frame, the time crunches that he had to meet to get this movie back on track. I think it's a very good sign that he's confident about it.
I think the one scene I'm looking forward to the most in this movie is the one where you see the Star Destroyer in that storm, that space storm.
Yeah.
The Falcon does the whole bank barrel roll and peels out. Yes, I'm so excited for it. That's Real Talk. That's Real Talk. That's the end of Real Talk.
That's it.
That's exciting.
No
Real
more.
Talk, the segment where we talk about everything that you can see Star Wars-wise on the big screen. Next segment of our show, Pages, Pixels, and Pieces. And this segment is brought to you by the Fantasy Shop in Maplewood, Missouri. Proud to have our local comic book shop as our official sponsor. Comics, collectibles, toys, Magic the Gathering, and board games. The Fantasy Shop in St. Louis, proudly serving the St. Louis community since 1981. They bring us... oh my gosh, a slew of comics this week, and we'll just rapid fire these comics because of time. But we have Thrawn number 3, Darth Vader 14, Star Wars 46, and I threw the latest Dr. Aphra. It's number 18. I only mention it because it has our girl Hera on the front cover, front and center with Aphra. I don't follow the series. I'm so happy if you enjoy it.
I read it, and it was...
What happens in it?
I couldn't even tell you. It's just that meh.
Okay, well, that cover, though, is worth getting in some Mylar, fullback, frame, do it. It's just good to see that connectivity, right, Jesse? Seeing Hera interact with, Dr. Aphra, who's a brand new character invented in the comic book series, right?
Unfortunately, shamefully, I'm kind of behind on the comics this week. And from everything I hear about Doctor, I have no interest in looking at this comic. Just in terms of reading it, it's apparently just not very solid.
But I'm happy for the people who do enjoy it because it's definitely pulling in, I think, a newer audience for Star Wars comics, which is exciting. Let's start with Darth Vader number 14 right off the top because wow, this comic, the first panel of it is the Empire just destroying the surface area of Mon Cala. It's beautiful. To give you some perspective on this. perspective on this comic book. Basically, what's going on is the Empire is invading Mon Cala. We kind of talked about this with the last issue, and Vader is now hunting down another Jedi that he believes to be alive. And so there's this attack, and we ultimately find out who the Jedi is. David, how did you feel about the reveal of Jedi Master Bar still alive?
So I don't know anything about Jedi Master Bar, so it wasn't an over-the-top reveal for me that I got really giddy and excited about. However, he's kind of hanging out in a cave with some people. Are they possibly learning the Force?
Yeah, it definitely seems like he's kind of trying to restart his kind of Jedi Academy, and has like 5 or 6, I would assume it's safe to say, Padawans with him. And he kind of goes through and he starts telling them about Anakin Skywalker. Like, he knows Vader's Anakin. He goes through the security tapes from the Jedi Temple. He tells the story of how Anakin was brought into the Order, thought he was to be the savior, ended up falling from grace to evil. And I just thought it was great. If you don't know Jedi Master Bar, he is the Jedi. You see him, I think, briefly in Phantom Menace, but like I think where a lot of fans are going to know him from is that micro series that was on Cartoon Network in 2003. You hear me talk about it all the time. The very first sequence of the very first short there is on Geonosis, and Yoda's leading the attack, and these Jedi starfighters kind of cruise down. Bar is the one in there. He's the one with the horns, and this one horn here is like been like sliced off like by a saber or a blast, but he's missing part of the horn there. That's Jedi Master Bar, and so I thought that was cool because here's another council master that survived Order 66, which is pretty exciting to me. So I thought that was a real tweet and a real treat, and I think it pays off to fans like Jesse and I especially, who we are always looking for that connectivity with canon. It really pays off, and it's also something similar that we get in Star Wars 46, also taking place on Mon Cala, and it's a situation where the Rebel Alliance is trying to again get Mon Cala to join the rebellion. David, do you have a major takeaway from Star Wars 46?
Not particularly. I will say that to me the art is getting better, but the faces still want me to like punch something.
Yeah, I feel bad because I feel like every week we're talking about how LaRocca just refuses to let go of this likeness style.
But the rest of the art to me has been getting better with every issue.
Okay.
So I don't think it's an issue with his art or his talent. I think it's that they're asking him to put these awful faces. Not to say that Mark Hamill's face is awful, or Carrie Fisher, or Harrison Ford. They just don't look like they should be in a comic.
It's a little shocking. Thrawn number 3 was also the other comic that came out recently, and I think this is a great job of an adaptation of the Timothy Zahn novel. I don't know, Jesse. I know you want to read that book, like the novel first. I would read the comic adaptation first, because it slices through a lot of Timothy Zahn's writing style, which is over detailed, and it's truly Thrawn. Like when you read his writing, it truly feels like Thrawn because it's so meticulous and just very over the top. This cuts through all that, and it's such a great telling.
The thing is with that is, I'm a very avid reader. Like I'm able to read something and like construct that image. Like I get a really nice image in my head, so I kind of want to see like how what I formed, compares to what somebody actually.
All right, Jesse, be stubborn. That's fine. I'm just
gonna
telling
be stubborn about it. But
the comic is just tremendous. Issue number 3 focuses purely on not Governor Price at this point, but Orinda Price is this character that we know very well from Star Wars Rebels.
I don't.
Well, that's because
I'm
you
behind.
Suck. Why is everyone behind on this show? When you watch Star Wars Rebels, she's the governor of Lothal, and this issue number 3 is part of the Thrawn book of her origin story and really how she comes to be of power on Lothal. And through this extended issue, it walks you through her whole timeline, which is really cool. And her first introduction to Thrawn and how she tries to use Thrawn as an ally and how maybe that does or does not backfire on her. If you're not reading this Thrawn miniseries, you have to. I really would encourage you now, after reading this 3rd issue, to pick this up first and then go back and read that novel. I mentioned Dr. Aphra 18. I just like the cover because it's Hera, and she's a pretty character. All right, before we go on to the next, because we have Star Wars Most Wanted book description, hints at background of Solo. Before we go on to that, though, we do have the comic book giveaway. So what we have here is the Icon variant comic book, thanks to our good friends over at Maplewood Fantasy Shop, and we're giving this away. So all you have to do to enter to win this comic book, and we'll ship it out to you for free, all you have to do is comment directly below with hashtag...
Never tell me the odds.
There you go. See, it's very simple. Hashtag never tell me the odds down in the comments below. You have to be subscribed to our YouTube channel in order for you to win this comic book. But what's really exciting is this week we're giving out a variant cover. Next week we could be giving out the entire week's worth of comics. You just never know. So you want to make sure that you stick with us and always look for that weekly giveaway we're doing here on Pages, Pixels, and Pieces. Again, thanks to our sponsor, the Fantasy Shop in Maplewood, Missouri. What do we think about this book description here in this Most Wanted book description for the novel coming out here? Because we're now just kind of within the last 36, 48 hours finding out about all of the Solo merchandise, and here we have a book excerpt. David, what do you think about it? I mean, you're really getting me excited about it.
Yeah, I mean, you know me. I don't think that we should have to go into the book series in order to figure out what in the heck is going on in the movies. That being said, this is set before the events of Solo. Kind of focuses on Han and Kira and how they both don't have a whole lot. They take the opportunity to prove themselves in the criminal underbelly. Maybe it'll be interesting. Maybe it'll just be like awful fan fiction. I don't know. I'm probably not going to go out and grab this book.
I think the books have been pretty stellar, and honestly, I know we mentioned the novel earlier in the show. You know, you only get Son of Staros in this book. You have the alternate covers. I mean that's pretty cool. I like the artwork just visually of this. You have the Han or the Lando, but you're getting this younger era, and I like it because you're using this book to fill in other gaps. You know, I enjoyed reading Catalyst going into Rogue One. I thought it really enhanced my experience because even though that we know this movie is supposedly, up at that moment in time, so we're going back to 16? At the time we're like, okay, so this movie is going to lead us up to the beginning of A New Hope. But there was so much, especially politically, going on during the time of the movie, that reading Catalyst really enhanced my experience. I'm going to pick up this novel. I'm going to read it going into Solo, because I really think 10 years before A New Hope, that's roughly 8-ish, 9-ish years after Revenge of the Sith, I want to know what's going on with the Galactic Empire. How's the development of the Navy, the Armada in space? What's going on with the rule of the planets? I mean, maybe we get a little of that in that book, or maybe it's like daycare with Baby Solo.
I bet he'd be a handful.
He just won't sit down, won't stand up, spits out his food.
You're not going to get a cookie. Never tell me the odds.
Peas on the bushes. All right, so that's going to do it for Pages, Pixels, and Pieces. And again, we want to thank our sponsors one last time because we love them a lot. Maplewood Fantasy Shop. They have been proudly serving the St. Louis area since 1981. I've been a faithful patron of theirs since 2010. 8-year relationship now. This is commitment. Next segment is Blast It or Stash It, and this is a fun Stash It or Blast It, I should say. Fun segment on the show where we talk about things that there sound like really great ideas, or maybe this is an atrocity, and it might be the latter with this first topic here because Laura Dern is bae. I will be honest about it. I have a thing for older women, and she is a beautiful human, very talented, and she recently said in an interview that she believes that Vice Admiral Holdo is force sensitive, so while I tweak my microphone stand, blast or stash it, David. Holdo is force sensitive in the Star Wars galaxy.
I think it's a load of bantha fodder.
Okay, I like that.
I'm gonna blast it.
Okay.
I don't need Laura Dern to be force sensitive. I don't need Holdo to be having those kinds of feelings, if you will. Maybe she just doesn't know she's force sensitive. I don't know. She can keep that to herself.
Jesse, what do you think? Stash it or blast it?
Well, there are elements that I liked about the character. Again, Laura Dern, great actress. I'm going to not take Vader's orders to heart, and I'm going to disintegrate this little rumor here. I'm sorry, you're not force sensitive. Not everybody can be a Jedi.
I remember there was like some kind of quote about force sensitivity in the Star Wars galaxy when we were gearing up for The Last Jedi. Like, you don't have to be a Jedi to use the Force, and I'm like, yeah. Duh, but in the prime of the Jedi Order, you'd be picked up. You'd be picked up. But in this time period, it makes sense.
She's old enough that maybe
no.
Well,
yeah. While Luke is doing his thing,
yeah.
I mean that's a possibility.
Well,
I don't really care. I mean, here's a quote from, it was an Entertainment Weekly interview, okay? And she said, after having discussions with director Ryan Johnson and producer Ron Bergman about Holdo's backstory, quote, in their minds and in their understanding of the origin story, we know that she was a true rebel in the resistance, and in our culture, we might have called her a hippie. Based on her hair, I think that's fair. But she was longing for peace and a revolutionary in that way and wanted to be trained by and led by Leia, who taught her everything she knew. She wanted to come up in the ranks and support Leia's mission, but also had this otherworldly side that does involve the Force. So, maybe some people are overreacting to this. Maybe we are. Maybe she's just saying that she has an appreciation for the divinity that is the Force. There were worshipers of the Force. We know
Guardians
that.
of the Will,
right? So it'd be kind of interesting. But I think if you take this at face value, the idea of Holdo being Force sensitive, it's just like, man, does everybody here be able to whip that out and be able to use the Force, tap it? Man, I don't know. But you definitely get the sense in Last Jedi, if anything, that they were close, that Holdo and Leia were close. I thought they might have been lovers. I don't know. It's a possibility. It kind of felt flirty. But seeing her Force sensitive, Jesse, I don't know. Do you think it's a little too much for that character? She seems to be able to do it all.
Yeah. I kind of want to draw the line. Great. She's a military officer, good at strategy or something, fine. But you can't give a character everything, and I see this more and more in films and movies where they want a character to be basically the best at everything, and it's like no, they have to have faults, they have to have weaknesses, and this is not just Star Wars. This is all across the board. To me, it disconnects me from the story when a character is too much.
Totally fair. Tell us what you think in the comments down below. Do you think it's, stash it or blast it? Laura Dern saying Holdo is one with the Force. Next topic here in Stash It or Blast It. This is pretty interesting, and this is a tangent of more comments from Mark Hamill. Apparently, in George Lucas's sequel trilogy, he had Luke Skywalker dying in 9 and having trained Leia in the ways of the Force, which I think that's safe to assume. I think if you think about it and you think about the treatment and the leaked concept art that we got from George Lucas's time trying to cultivate the ideas for Episode 7, he did have a Padawan. He was training. He was in somewhat of isolation. I can get that. But also some skepticism here about Mark's words. I'm a big fan of Mark. I like to jump on his bandwagon all the time. But these words with IGN, we'll get into it. David, first reactions to this story, Mark Hamill's words.
So, this is Stash or Blasted. So, Mark Hamill saying that Luke should live in Episode 9, I'm going to stash.
Okay.
I'll take him alive. Him training Leia, I'm going to blast.
You suck.
Leia made her choice in Return of the Jedi to learn the Force or to go do what she does her way, and she chose to go do things her way.
Okay. Oh, okay, that's fine. Staying in the political world and stuff?
Yeah.
Okay. I think that's fair. But I like the idea of her tapping into it a little bit. I don't like Leia Poppins, but I do like the ability of her training.
But we know she has a little bit of that connectivity because she has that connection with Luke at the end of Empire Strikes Back.
Very good point.
We know, so she has that, but I don't think she needs a formal training because she did not choose that. She chose to continue playing in the political world as a leader, as the Republic, as opposed to going away and studying like Luke did at Dagobah. Half and half on mine.
That's fair. Again, the quote, Jesse, is, I happen to know that George did not kill Luke until the end of Episode 9 after he trained Leia, which is another thread that was never played upon in The Last Jedi. And I think it's important to note, too, is there's those interviews that happened before the VHS movies with Leonard Maltin, where George talked about how he had this huge story, and he took the middle part and made that 4, 5, and 6, and he put the rest on the shelf. He went back and did 1, 2, and 3, and then, he was going to do his 7, 8, and 9 at some point. I'm kind of curious, Jesse, though, what version of this 7, 8, and 9 did George tell Luke? I mean, was this like this? I mean, from what we're to understand, was this the treatment of 7, 8, and 9, which is basically a skeleton? From what we're told from Pablo Hidalgo and other from the storytelling group is there was nothing more than treatments. There were no scripts from George.
I'm gonna kind of do it like how David,
Go ahead.
did here. As far as I definitely stash having Luke, survive to 9. I would have preferred that. Like, I'm okay with him dying, but the mentality of I need a start, middle, and end would have been good for this trilogy. So I'm still hoping to see him in some capacity. Force Ghost, obviously. As far as training Leia, it kind of makes sense a little bit. I mean, that discovery of, hey, we're twins. Well, how I'm kind of powerful with the Force. Like, what about you? Or how can maybe I think Leia learns some of it in some ways to maybe aid her own motives and everything.
I think that's fair. I think if it's like the telepathy and like the mind trick element of the Force, I can see Leia being really strong with that. But maybe she doesn't have all the instinctual abilities because she's so much older, trying to learn how to tap the Force. We look at the Jedi Order; they were getting these kids fresh out of the womb. They walked out of their mother and. All right, let's take you off to Coruscant, and now you're talking about a woman that's in her late 20s, early 30s trying to figure out how the Force works. So I can understand if she has some limitations. I do want to note that Pablo Hidalgo did retweet a tweet from Brandon Bird where Brandon said, I have no doubt Mark Hamill was told by George Lucas at some point about this ending, but to call this original ending seems disingenuous. I think Pablo retweeting that does symbolize that would be his sentiment exactly, which, okay, that's fair. I think for George's, I think if George said that was how it was going to end, which we kind of all can assume would be how it ends because it was the Skywalker saga. 1 through 9 was the Skywalker saga. It's not the original ending that Disney had planned, and I think that's where we have to keep making the difference here because I think if you go on this path of episodes 1 through 6, okay, there's a fork in the road, or there's a straight path, and then there's this deviation. And I think at 1 through 6, you hit here with Return of the Jedi, and then I think it branches out because it's not that end that Lucas vision, which David is annoyed by because David has told me repeatedly that I care too much about George Lucas's vision. He thinks that I'm a crybaby. He thinks I'm one of the obnoxious fans out there crying that I didn't get my way, and that might be fine. But if you don't agree with me, then you can just go ahead and start your own Star Wars show.
Kind of an interesting thought, again, concerning. Would it be plausible that Leia didn't really want all the Force training? Because, I mean, from what we understand, she took a lot of backlash from being related to Darth Vader in the political atmosphere and everything. So it would make sense for her to kind of somewhat distance herself from the Force
I think
on some level.
I think that's fair. I mean, if you read the novel Bloodlines by Claudia Gray, we know that she had kind of kept it under wraps, and then it leaks out that Vader is her father. And then it's kind of funny because you do go to Last Jedi, and that shot from behind her hair is kind of done to symbolize. It kind of looks similar to Vader's helmet if you look at it, visual symbolism. That's why you should get your own Star Wars show. So that is kind of a cool tie. But I think that's a really good point, and I think you're right in a sense. I still think that she would want some. I think she would be curious to find out what her capabilities are, but she's not going to don the robes and start, igniting a lightsaber whenever she feels like it. I think that's fair. All right, Blaster to stash it. I just realized that I didn't answer anything. So I'm going to say I blast Laura Dern being the whole Holdo Force sensitive thing. And George Lucas, I'm totally on board with that, baby. I love my Lucas. All right, Fan Comlink, it's the last segment of the show. Second to last segment of the show, I guess I should say. Fan Comlink, Emperor Palpatine, Emperor Sheev Palpy sends us this tweet. What do you think happened to Commander Cody? I was expecting him to make a return in Star Wars Rebels. So Commander Cody is obviously the guy who hangs out with Obi-Wan on Utapau in Revenge of the Sith. We have no knowledge of Cody in Attack of the Clones, kind of character that was developed out of, Revenge of the Sith, and obviously expanding him in the Clone Wars. But definitely a fan favorite. I think I would prefer Rex over Cody. Cody was always, by the books. We did get Cody. We got Cody and Rex actually in the micro series a little bit, didn't we? I think we did. I think we got Cody there. But what were you about to say, David?
I like the by the books.
Yeah.
Proves that he's really devoted to the Empire, or what's becoming the Empire. It's a good soldier. I like that.
Okay, I think that's fair. As far as what happened to Cody, do I don't believe in canon right now there is an official explanation of what happens. I thought he just joined the Empire and was like a captain somewhere.
What I can tell you, and this is strictly obviously not canon, he did make it into some of the expanded universe comics that took place after Episode 3. A little bit of backlore. He was in charge of the cloning facility on Camino during Force Unleashed.
Wow, that's right. I forgot about that.
So again, unfortunately, that game is not considered canon
Such a
anymore,
shame.
which is a shame because Sam Witwer, amazing.
Right.
So I'd say what we know about Cody at this point is that he obeyed Order 66. Okay, and what we know is Rex and a handful of other clones took the
Chips out.
and everything, so they didn't obey this order. Cody did. So with that being said, I mean, yeah, he's full on Empire kind of sense. I feel like if he did survive the remaining battles of the Clone Wars, he would have gone on to train troops. And it's kind of like Rex even says in Rebels, because he's got that problem like Cody and I came up with a lot of the code phrases and things that are still in use today. So like I like to think that if he did survive the Clone Wars, he probably went on to train future generations of stormtroopers.
Well, then he should be really embarrassed because those guys can't hit anything.
So I mean, it's hard to say. It's unfortunate, that a lot of stuff is just kind of in limbo at this point.
Right.
Even the internet has actually kind of shown this. Wikipedia actually had this, and I actually had to dig around on this a little bit to actually kind of compile it.
Well, we even speculated on the show that we thought that there might be a showdown in Season 4 of Rebels between Cody and Rex, because we thought that would be kind of a fitting end, because at the time, the rumor of Rex being the older Rebel soldier on the Battle of Endor and Return of the Jedi, that was kind of kiboshed. Like, there was concept art shown at Celebration. They're like, no, that's not really true. And they're like, okay, so then they're going to have to kill Rex off. They're going to have to kill off, Rex in this season finale. And they didn't. And we didn't get Cody. So it kind of bummed me out because I thought that would have been a really cool, powerful ending to a relationship that you were aware of if you were really invested in that Star Wars canon. What do you think happened to Commander Cody after the Clone Wars? Let us know down in the comment section below. I would really like to read your theories about that because he's a fan favorite that we really haven't heard from a lot.
I like to think that after Utapau, when he mercilessly gunned down Obi-Wan Kenobi, that he spent the rest of his days feeling guilty about it.
Oh, that's interesting. Right, like the guilt of like taking out a best friend, but orders are orders?
Yeah.
Man, that would be really good. You know what would be really cool? If they did like a 501st standalone movie. You know how epic that would be?
Yeah, but it wouldn't. Cody wouldn't be a future of it because he was the 212.
Well, or like, you know what I'm saying? Like, go back to that era. I don't know.
Yeah, true.
I don't know. It'd be like a buddy cop movie. I don't know. That probably wouldn't work. That's actually a terrible idea. Don't do that. That's a terrible idea. Second question we have is from our good friend John Boffman. This guy, he's responsible for the new pop figures on our set. He's responsible for that big old backpack that Jesse's got. You should have a thank you card in the mail coming to you very soon, John. Thank you for everything that you do for our show. A proud Patreon supporter, and so is Sheaf Palpy, both Patreon supporters.
Thank you.
You can find us on patreon.com/Beyond the Blast Doors as well if you want to support the show. John's question is, any chance of a young Kanan or Ahsoka sighting in Solo? Okay. Well, I have my thoughts, but David, let's start with you.
I doubt it because they're introducing so many more characters in this with Kira and Woody Harrelson, and so I doubt it, but I could be pleasantly surprised. I'd love to see Ahsoka pop up somewhere in the film canon.
I think it would be great to see Ahsoka pop up. It won't be in this movie. I don't think you're going to see a young I think Kanan is more of a possibility than Ahsoka.
I want to say the chances are they're pretty slim. I mean, if anything, they'll give it the Rogue One treatment. We saw Chopper for a brief second. We saw the Ghost for a brief second.
Heard Hera's voice get called, name get called.
I think that's about it. If we get anything, I think you're right. We've got a lot of new characters coming. I think they're going to want to focus on that.
I don't know enough about Kanan's backstory. I'm going back through the Kanan comic book series right now. Had appreciation for the cover art, but finally going back and reading that story. I don't know if he's had any adventures on Corellia or Kessel. I pretty much just know him to be on Lothal. but I just don't. I think you could maybe see him in the back. If you saw him, it'd be in the background. Maybe he's trying to like steal something from the streets of Corellia or something. I don't know. That all seems very unlikely. I think if you're going to see any character, let me put it this way: if you're going to see a character with a lightsaber, it's going to be a red blade. It's going to be Vader, and it's going to be very brief. If you see a lightsaber, it's going to be Darth Vader in this movie. I'm pretty confident on that.
I want Vader to show up somewhere where Lando is, and them work out a deal, and then Vader to change that deal and say, "Pray to that I don't alter it further." That's what I want.
I like that.
That's what I want.
Good job, pal.
Because that way in Empire, when he tells that to Lando, it's not the first time he's heard it, which is why he's more willing to turn on Vader this time, because he knows it's not going to turn out in his favor.
I really dig that.
Yeah.
Okay, that's pretty solid.
That's what I want.
Okay, do you want that? Let us know down in the comments below. Man, I love doing this show with you guys. This is a lot of fun. All right, Staying on Target is the last segment of our show, and Staying on Target starting next week is going to be a little bit differently formatted from here on out. So in episodes past, for the first 34 episodes, we've come to Staying on Target, and we've been like, all right, well, this is what we're looking at for the next week. And to be honest, we don't invest a whole lot of energy into it. But we think that it's a segment that has a lot more potential, and we want to see this become a segment in the show where it's more debate-based, where we have, let's say, the theme for next week would be your favorite weapon from the original trilogy. And so the three of us would have to pick
Lightsaber.
our weapon, and then you'd have to defend that, and then you'd have to be able to pick apart everyone else's, have an argument. That's how arguments work, right? You're right, they're wrong. That's how it works, okay? So that's what we're going to do moving forward. For starting in episode 35, that's how Staying on Target is going to be. We just think it's going to be a lot more enjoyable for everybody. Like, honestly, we don't even listen to Staying on Target when we go back through the episode because it's like, it's kind of lame. But next week, my God, is this going to be a lot better than listening to me ramble
I kind
about
of listen to it because sometimes I forget what I was staying.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I always say the same thing. It's Darth Vader.
So that's my Staying on Target. Is Staying on Target getting way cooler?
Well, let's let David get his one thing out of the way here for the final time.
I swear to God, this is awful.
Well, I'm looking forward, Jesse, now that the weather's getting nicer, to taking this bag of plumbing parts that I've had since June that's sitting on my counter and turning that into a lightsaber hilt.
And I promise you we will get to it.
Jesse, what's your Staying on Target?
I'm actually excited. I actually ordered some upgrade stuff for my armor.
Okay.
So it is cosplay related. But I'd been toying around with the idea of getting actual like leather pouches and stuff like that because I think it just seems more in universe and everything. So I'm really excited about that because it's going to bring a whole new level of bringing my character, my Star Wars character, to life when I'm in costume. So.
That's pretty cool. I have another idea too, and Jesse, I love you. But let us know what you think about Jesse's haircut because you've seen so much of the back of his head on this episode that I want you guys to let us know what you think of that fresh cut. It's nice. I wish you would see his face more often, but I think Jesse just likes looking at me. But it's
just beautiful.
Just let us know. Stop. You're lying to me. All right. So we're crashing and we're burning. Hey, by the way, we got the dates for D23, right? In California?
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure we got those.
They are.
I want to bring that up.
I got it right here. Opening link.
Do you have that?
It's
I just want to make sure that we get this out because it's kind of like the big event of the year.
It's in 2019.
It is in 2019. August 23rd through the 25th. In California.
Okay, but we're going to go to
Star
Wars
Wars
Celebration, right? Like, is that like you're going to go, right?
As long as we can plan it out in advance and we get dates and everything, tickets go quick.
We're going.
We all know what's going to happen. You and I are going to go. Jesse's going to go. We're going to get round trip tickets. Jesse's not. And then Jesse's just going to stay there in uniform, walking around, and nobody's going to realize it. And then we'll just be a two-man show.
That's not what I had envisioned. Like, I'll stay, but I'm going to be like that. Like Disney security is going to be like, there he is, and like I'm going to have to go like making a mad dash across the park kind of thing.
If you want to help fund this effort to get us to Star Wars Celebration, you can become a supporter right now of patreon.com/Beyond the Blast Doors and become a supporter at the $5, $10, $20, $50 level. Make Betty proud, okay? Support us at that $50 level. We'd really appreciate it. You can also find us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube. We mentioned Patreon already. We're on a slew of social media. You can find that right now down in the description below, along with the stories that we discussed today. Again, we want to thank our sponsors, the Fantasy Shop at Maplewood. We also want to thank our friends over at StarWarsNewsNet.com for making this show possible. That's it for us. We'll see you next week. May the Force be with you. If you haven't already, go ahead and smash that subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. You can watch other videos just like this one right now by checking out these videos on your screen. And by the way, thanks for checking out Beyond the Blast Doors.